Of Christmases Long, Long Ago is my new book arriving for the 2025 Christmas season. Find out what Christmas was like centuries ago. Sneak preview, it was weird and spooky and rowdy, kind of gross sometimes. Find it wherever books are sold in hardcover from Lions Press and audiobook from Recorded Books. It's Christmas as you've never seen it before, and it makes a great gift. Hey, thanks for joining me again for another installment of Christmas in Quarantine, Christmas Past's impromptu miniseries of indeterminate length. I'm bringing you one new episode every day until things start getting back to normal amidst the COVID-19 crisis. It's like an audio advent calendar to spread some much-needed Christmas cheer in these uncertain times. And today, we're going back to the swingin' 60s when the crooners crooned and the eggnog was always spiked. But first, I hope that you're staying safe and healthy. I hope that you're following all of the common sense guidelines and that you're taking your advice only from trained medical professionals. And second, I'll bet there are people in your life who could use a little Christmas spirit right about now, so why not help them discover this show? All it takes is a quick mention to a friend or a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Both of those are quick and painless ways to show support, and they really do make a big difference. It's like spreading Christmas cheer. And if you do leave a review, I'll send you a Christmas Past sticker and a handwritten Christmas card as my way of saying thanks. You can get in touch with me for details about that or for any other reason. I always love to hear from you. You can reach me at christmaspastpodcast@gmail.com or find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you haven't yet joined the private Christmas Past Facebook group, well, maybe today's the day you will. Now, today's episode is a roundtable discussion about 1968's The Dean Martin Christmas Show. It's a star-studded variety show filled with Christmas music, on-screen smoking, comedy sketches, and some truly head-scratching moments. I get into it all with my good friends Jenna Knorr from Welcome to Tinseltown and Todd Killian from Christmas Clatter. Be sure to check out the show notes for a link to the video so that you can watch along with us. I'll be back at the end to wrap up and say goodbye, but for now, please enjoy our review of 1968's The Dean Martin Christmas Show. Okay, so we all watched this special earlier today, and for me, this was maybe like the third or fourth time I've seen this in recent memory, and for all I knew, I saw it when I was younger too. What's your experience with this, Todd? Have you seen this before?
No, I watched it just a couple of times this weekend. I knew it existed but I've never sat down and watched one.
And how about you, Jenna?
No, I had never seen it before. This was my first time. I watched it today.
But I kind of feel like we were all aware of this kind of thing. Like, no one was surprised that there was a Dean Martin variety Christmas special. I mean, it would be more surprising if that weren't the case.
I agree.
Yes.
And so when you watched it, did it meet or not meet the expectations of what you thought something like this would be like?
I mean, I had little to no expectation whatsoever of what to expect. I mean, I'm familiar with the X celebrity does Christmas special format because I feel like it's done less now, but it's still riffed on in different shows. And Bill Murray did one of questionable quality on Netflix a couple of years ago. But I found the humor surprisingly modern in some ways. I felt like the sketches could be on SNL today. Some of the jokes were a little of their time, but that's kind of what surprised me the most.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned SNL because that's probably the only mainstream show that we still have today that would come anywhere near this kind of thing. We're just pure variety entertainment where it's just one disconnected skit after another, different kinds, whether it's a played out skit or a fake news thing or some kind of parody of a game show, and then a couple of musical numbers. Nothing like that really exists today. And if it does, and it's not SNL, it's either falls into some kind of pastiche, like when Stephen Colbert tried to recreate these old Christmas specials. And the same with Bill Murray. There was a bit of a wink and a nod going on there too. But trying to recreate these nowadays doesn't really have the same ring to it, right? It almost is either, they're trying to recreate something or making fun of something that used to exist in the past, because this kind of entertainment is very, very much of its time. And what I find interesting about all of that is just why. So I'm probably the oldest one of the bunch. So I have childhood memories of the 70s and 80s. And so this special that we're about to discuss was from 1968. But that kind of entertainment, variety entertainment, was really, really at its peak in the late 60s and through the 70s and maybe a little bit into the 80s too. I don't know if you guys remember that show Solid Gold, but that was kind of part of my childhood. Where it was a pretty much variety entertainment. There was this guy named Wayland who had a puppet named Madam, who was this kind of pop culture figure from the 80s. And so that kind of thing was really in the zeitgeist. And I kind of feel like maybe the equivalent today would be reality television. It's in the same mold of something that you can really quickly and cheaply throw together. And it's just sort of meant to come and go, not really meant to have much enduring cultural appeal, but just meant to be more like a snapshot in time featuring all of the major entertainers of the day.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons we don't see it nowadays is there's not many entertainers that sing, dance, and act and do comedy all at once. It seems like maybe our entertainers are more focused on one thing or the other.
That's exactly right, yeah. And I think maybe the closest thing we've had to a pure iteration of this kind of show was back in 2014 when Jessica Simpson and her husband, Nick, and I can never pronounce his last name, tried to do one of these. And
really?
Oh, yeah. And it's on YouTube. Maybe we'll have to do that one next.
Yeah.
But that one really does. You can't really tell if they're making fun of this old format or trying to revive it or something. It doesn't quite hang together. But and I think it partly because it was very obviously not filmed in front of a studio audience. The laugh track is very, very obvious in the same way that it is in the Stephen Colbert special.
Yeah, they did a special, like a variety show special in this style on Glee in one of the early seasons of Glee.
Oh, interesting.
But again, it's that, and on Glee, you had, whether you're a fan of that show or were a fan of that show or not, like the folks on that show were talented singers and dancers because these are people who are coming from Broadway and looking to get into TV. So they could have done like a very good earnest execution of this kind of thing. But again, it was kind of played for comedy a little bit, which after having watched this one with Dean Martin, like what makes them good is that they are earnest, is that people like are working hard to pull off a great show. So I would be in favor of a return of this kind of thing.
Well, I think as we go through this review of this episode, all of the reasons that you can't do that anymore are going to become apparent. And I think Todd already made an excellent point. I mean, this was from a time where your average entertainer was, a singer would also be in the movies and also have, do like comedy roasts and things like that. And I kind of feel like that was at the tail end of the, just that time of in earlier cinema. There's a reason why so many old movies had musical numbers in them. And that's because the movies kind of replaced the other form of cheap entertainment that came before it, which is vaudeville. So once vaudeville went away, all these people who had like a juggling act and a magic act and could sing and dance, they just put them in the movies. And then that's why so many movies were like that. And I kind of feel like toward the end of the 60s is when the last of that was just kind of, the Rat Pack with Sammy Davis Jr., who's a multi-instrumentalist, who was an actor, a singer. He could also just do sort of like a stand-up routine, could just stand in front of an audience and just entertain them for an hour. You don't really have that anymore. Or maybe you do in Vegas. I think maybe Wayne Newton is maybe a little bit like that nowadays, or that style of a Vegas entertainer. They'll come out, they'll tell a couple jokes, they'll have a couple guests up, they'll do a little of this, a little of that. There actually was a special not long ago, it's on Netflix maybe, where Steve Martin and who's the other guy, Martin Short, come out and do this kind of variety special. Did you guys see that by any chance?
No, I sure didn't.
No, I didn't see that, but maybe I should.
It's really entertaining, yeah. But anyway, so let's all cast our minds back to 1968. It was a time of great technicolor and casual sexism, and it was okay to drink and smoke on television. And you put all of that together with some of the great stars of the day, with some musical numbers, and you get a special like this. And it reminds me of some of the other ones that I saw around that time. And I know, Todd, you're a fan of these, the old Lawrence Welk shows,
yes,
and the Bing Crosby. There's another one like this where I think it's Dean Martin and the Sinatras. So what about those stands out to you? Did we lose Todd?
Hello?
Oh, did we
Hi.
lose? Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
That's okay.
I kind of everything went quiet for a second. I'm not
That's
sure
the
what
magic
happened
of
there.
editing. No, so those kinds of shows like the Lawrence Welk ones and this one and all that. Like, what about those do you think stands out to you, Todd?
For me, the music's what really stands out. I just the music with the dancing, that just something about all that just kind of puts me in the Christmas mood, gives me the Christmas feels, and that's what and the comedy's fine and it's great, but I just love watching people sing and perform music. Those are the standout moments for me.
And Jenna, were you a fan of anything like this when you were growing up, like sort of variety entertainment, or are there others that were special to you?
No, we watched a lot of like the kind of Christmas standards. We watched A Christmas Carol and we watched Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas because we like to cry at Christmas in my family, apparently. But I am a big fan of Broadway musicals. We were really into musicals growing up. And I feel like maybe that's why I did like this so much, is because it's like you're saying, Todd, it's like these multi-talented people. And I also love to watch people sing. I like the chills that I get when I hear someone perform a song really well. And it's something that I could never do. So there is that kind of like escapism aspect to it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, just thinking back to be off Christmas just a little bit. And I think the reason I'm attracted to these Christmas specials like this is growing up in rural Missouri as a kid, every Saturday afternoon, Hee Haw was on. And it was basically this kind of show, just country music flair and, with comedy bits in between and then live performances and things. So it was just kind of a part of entertainment growing up. So, as my love for Christmas grew, then my love for this type of variety show grew because it was such a familiar format as well for me.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always hard to recall what you appreciated about something because obviously as time goes on, you pick up new points of appreciation. And so when you look back, you kind of wonder, well, is that what I liked all along, or is that what I now realize in retrospect was part of the appeal to it, if that makes sense? And so I recently watched an old Lawrence Welk Christmas special, and the thing that just popped out for me was that it's wall-to-wall colorful characters, and or colorful costumes and big hairdos, and of course it has that very 60s like in living color kind of look and feel to it, and again just the variety of all of the music. But there's something else about that and this one and some other ones too, which is there's something for me about the artifice of it all, the fact that you know that you're looking at what's supposed to look like someone's living room, but you know that it's on a stage. And there's something about that. I'm trying to figure out why that appeals to me, but I think it's like when I went to the mall as a child and just all of a sudden this floor that I've walked on and I know as the floor of a mall suddenly becomes Santa's village. And you know that it's fake, but you're also allowing yourself to buy into the illusion. And I don't know, there's got to be a German word for whatever that feeling is of just sort of like appreciating the artifice, but also allowing yourself to sort of be consumed by it. And when I watch something like this, it's like there's something about the fake snow. There's something about the obviously cheap sets. You even see in this special when Dom DeLuise comes out and does that thing where he's writing Santa a parking ticket. They put together the set right in front of you, and then they zoom in, and then you're like, okay, I'm watching someone on a city street, but you saw just moments ago that this was just pushed together by two stagehands. There's something about that, something like just sort of seeing how things were put together that I don't know. I think it adds something to it. But anyway,
yeah, I think it speaks to that classic, just like suspension of disbelief that we feel whenever we read anything, right? It's like you can pick apart the holes in a story in like a book or in whatever kind of media you're consuming. But if you just let yourself enjoy the experience, it just pays off. It just feels so good.
So why don't we, as they say, take it from the top with this as we go back to 1968. And the first thing that you hear in that classic 1960s stentorian radio voice is brought to you in living color. And then we just go right on into it. So this first number, it begins with a musical number. And I don't know like if a kid watching this would find it creepy or not, but it is these masked dancing Santas who are just nightmare fuel. I mean, they're like Santas in rubber masks dancing around.
Yeah, that's my first note. Santa
Yeah.
masks in opening number equals creepy in all caps.
Yep.
It was definitely creepy.
It was. That's what I wrote up. Creepy Santas. It kind of reminded me of the Santas from A Christmas Story, and then it also kind of reminded me of the from the Kung Fu movies, the white hair Kung Fu master with that you always see, and it was absolutely bizarre to watch them.
Yeah, so they're all dancing around, and we get in a couple of other jokes. I think Dean might be smoking at the beginning of this, and they're putting Santa makeup on his face. And then all of a sudden we go into the dancing Santas. And then this was very much a style of the time. They'd be singing, and then all of a sudden cut away to this weird little vignette, right? Like something, it was like some nagging housewife. Again, this is where that casual sexism comes in. The nagging housewife saying, well, I need a fur coat or all that. And then it would cut back to the musical number. And that reminds me a lot of Laugh-In. I don't know if you guys ever saw that show.
No, I never did.
Yes.
You saw?
I used to watch Laugh-In on Nick at Night. So.
Yeah, that's how I think it was on. It was like one of those after school shows. I'd get home and it would be Brady Bunch back to back and then Laugh-In. Because I would have no business watching that as a kid. I don't know how, like I wouldn't be up to see it in prime time. But it definitely had that feel to it. So they start out with, one of those numbers, and then we get to Dean singing Marshmallow World, and by then it's clear to anyone watching that Dean has had a couple drinks before the show started.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It was, by the time you get to the end of that music number, which I mean we'll backtrack and talk about that number because I have some notes on that as well. When he's teeing up the sketch with Bob Newhart, he literally sounds like he's on Drunk History.
Yes.
Like he's like, and then we're doing a sketch and it's at the store. Like it's barely sensible.
And I don't know enough about Dean Martin to know, like W.C. Fields was another one of those characters who was famous for being drunk. But if you've seen any of his old clips, he was a very skilled juggler. And again, he was one of these vaudeville guys who got put in the movies. And that was part of his shtick. He would come out and look like he was about to make all these mistakes because his persona was that he was drunk. But then he'd amaze you with his skill because, you would constantly think that he was about to drop something, but then he'd do something amazing. And I didn't know if that was part of Dean's shtick, like that he was just supposed to be the kind of drunk guy, or if it was real. I could be convinced either way, but I could really, really buy that he was drunk when the show was being filmed.
Me too, 100%.
I agree. That was my second note, is Dean drunk.
Because I feel like this would be, I mean, it's funny because they do a sketch in the show about the office Christmas party, but I feel like this would kind of be like the entertainer's Christmas party, is when they come together and do this variety show. So I would not be surprised at all if just like 2 steps off stage, there was a bar.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does have that feel of a bunch of old friends just like, oh, we were going to get together and do this anyway. Why don't we get a camera and put it in front of everybody else? Because after that first number with the Masked Santas, then it goes in, it's sort of like a continuation of that where he sings Marshmallow World and then goes into this really classic Bob Newhart style sketch. Yeah. And this... Well,
the thing on the thing I loved about the Marshmallow World is he sung it live, and it wasn't, it just wasn't in the can and him lip singing. He actually sung it live on stage, which is takes a lot of confidence to do as an entertainer to sing that live and then give the ad libs that he did and probably had a few drinks in him as well. So
I was going to say liquid confidence.
Yes,
sure.
Yes.
Because as it's happening, he's complaining that there's not enough snow coming down, or just making these little quips like right in between lines, and still singing on key and all while drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely more casual sexism in that number, where like there's these 2 women that are with him, and at some points they're like. If you want to talk about the literal objectification of women, like they're literally just like set pieces for him to kind of fall over and kind of grab him when he's falling over. So that also, as if the smoking and drinking on TV wasn't enough, that kind of set the tone like a little bit for me. But I did have to remember, it is the 60s. This is a production that's very of its time.
And as we'll soon see, it gets worse. It gets much worse.
Yeah. much worse. Yeah.
So, but then before things get really bad, we have what I think is really an excellent Bob Newhart comedy sketch, which could have been better if Dean could have kept a straight face.
I kind of liked that he kept breaking character. I thought that was like, again, it kind of contributed to that feel of like, you know, these are just friends who are hanging out and there's a camera here. I did like that. And Bob Newhart is just unbelievably funny.
He is the best.
Yes, I love Bob Newhart. Part of me, Dean broke so much, part of me wondered if this was the first time he had heard any of those lines.
Probably was.
And, it was Bob Newhart just, completely in improv mode, at certain points.
But part of what makes Bob Newhart's comedy work is that he is deadpan, complete straight face throughout the whole thing. And the fact that, he's supposed to be talking to some harried and helpless store clerk who's trying to help him, but Dean just cannot keep a straight face. I mean, it's kind of like when someone laughs, you can't help but laugh along with them. It's almost like a reflex response. But I think it could have been a lot funnier if both of them were just kept in character the whole time. Yeah. So the skit, for those who've never seen the special before, is a man is trying to return a toupee at a department store that his wife bought him, but he's trying to do it with the utmost of discretion so that nobody else will see or hear what he's talking about. So he's wearing a hat and he's trying to keep his voice low, but he's also trying to describe the predicament he finds himself in to someone who just doesn't understand what's going on. I mean, it's a pretty classic, the two people who just can't understand one another kind of comedy sketch.
Yeah, I thought that was when I got the first kind of inkling of like, this would work on SNL. Like maybe not a toupee, like just because maybe that's, it is very funny. And like, I can't in the moment think of another object that's like funnier than a toupee, but just, the pure deadpan comedy. Dean Martin he reminded me of like John Mulaney on SNL in that point where he was kind of breaking character and just being really goofy. That was when I first got that inkling of like, oh, this is why sketch comedy works. 'Cause it is just funny to see people acting out these ridiculous scenarios that like wouldn't necessarily make an entire show or an entire movie, but just as like a glimpse is so funny.
Yeah, for sure. And the breaking, like sometimes it's like salt and pepper, right? Like a little bit is funny sometimes, but then on SNL you get someone like Jimmy Fallon who was just useless in every sketch he did. Like he just could not deliver a line with a straight face.
Yeah, that's not fun because you still want to see the scene played out.
Right. There were like Carol Burnett used to do that on her show. There was a lot of like winking at the camera, and it was kind of funny when who's the other guy, Tim something or other, who would always laugh, or they'd just be like trying to crack each other up. But you got the sense that they earned that. Like 50 years in the biz, like you earned the right to do that. Otherwise, it just looks kind of sloppy, which is the impression I got here. But overall, a very funny sketch. Which then leads into, maybe this is the pattern. It's a sketch and then just some gratuitous sexism, because we go into a number by the Gold Diggers.
Oh, man.
And here's some trivia for you. Can anyone guess the name of a well-known celebrity who was once a member of the Gold Diggers?
No.
I'm going to take that as
no. I don't. I don't think I know too many celebrities from that era.
You would be surprised. It was Kathy Lee Gifford.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense for some reason.
But apparently they were on those kinds of shows. And, getting back to the, not only are they dressed in skimpy outfits, but even just the physical posture that you see them in when this whole thing starts. We don't necessarily need to go into it, but it is very very objectifying in the way that they're positioned on the stage and the things that they're doing, and so they go into this medley, which the first song is just I forget which number it was, but it was something like Santa Claus is coming to town or something like that. But then Dean comes in and they all surround him, and then it just gets creepy where they're all like, "Daddy, buy me this," and "Daddy, buy me that," or something like that.
Just like staring at him adoringly, all trying to like clamber over each other to get close to him. Which is a shame because like they were very talented.
Yeah, they were. They kind of remind me of the Ray Conniff Singers, if you're familiar with them. They put out albums during the 60s and I think mostly the 60s. And it's a very similar style, it's like an all-female chorus and has that sort of like, Rankin Bass theme song kind of feel to it. And just a really nice aesthetic, but again, definitely very cemented in the 60s and has kind of a Mad Men feel to it, with Dean like this one dapper guy all glossed up in his tuxedo and just, like surrounded by women who are like clawing over themselves to compete for his attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was even one of the gold diggers sitting to, as you look on the screen, sitting to Dean's right hand, not the one next to him, the one next to her, would reach over and she like would take her fingers and like walk up his arm a couple of times, just so just so I guess she could touch Dean Martin for some reason. I'm not sure. I found that a little odd too. So.
Well, there were definitely a few moments, like that being a very good example, where in my mind, I was thinking, like, who is this for? Like, what time of day is this airing on television? Mm-hmm. Who are they hoping will watch it? And at first I was like, oh, it must have been like on prime time. This must have been something for mom and dad to watch when kids went to bed. And then there were like all these kids at the end. So yeah. I don't know, maybe this is the late 60s version of wholesome family entertainment. We'll like gather around and watch creepy Uncle Dean Martin
and I should
be drunk.
See the timeline between when this came out and when some of the Lawrence Welk specials came out, because they would follow that exact same format. At the very end would be all of the cast and crew's kids would be on stage, and they'd go around and introduce everybody. That was kind of the thing you did in these kinds of shows at those times. Mm. I'm not quite sure which one of those was the first to do it, but yeah. And this was a primetime special.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the modern day. If you went to like your office Christmas party, there'd be like Santa who would give every kid a gift. Like it's maybe that kind of a nod of like the greatest gift we can give these children is to be on television.
And then, so after all of that, we go into this other sketch, which I would be surprised if it weren't true that Bob Newhart wrote this for Dom DeLuise, because it's that same one side of a conversation kind of sketch where Dom DeLuise is just standing there talking to nobody. And like, based on what he's saying, he's basically carrying both sides of the conversation, where the scenario is that a police officer is writing a ticket in New York City, presumably, where Santa Claus has illegally parked his car.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This was my favorite part of the special. Yeah. It was just like expertly delivered. Again, we go back to, does breaking a scene make it like better or worse? This was just like perfectly delivered. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. The timing was perfect. The scenario was like funny. And as much as it was formulaic, it was like had some unexpected punchlines. I just thought it was like a perfect sketch.
Yeah, it was excellent. It was really well performed.
Yeah, and it was just the right length. It ended perfectly, because, there was a little reversal toward the end where, you sort of see him, he's dropping his guard, he gets the nice pen, and then he just flips it around, lands right on the punchline, and then it ends. It's just absolutely perfectly constructed. Yeah.
And then Don DeLuise actually shows how talented he is, because when he started to break a little bit, I for a second thought he was going to actually cry, and then he does a 180 real quick, and it was so well done.
Yeah, which like again going back to the comparison with SNL, I find sometimes you get these like very talented A-list actors who come on to guest host SNL to like hawk whatever movie they have in theaters, and like I'm thinking specifically of like the episode with Daniel Craig when he was doing his like James Bond presser. Like he's horrible on SNL. He does not have the chops to do that kind of comedy at all. But DeLuise just pulls it off. Like it's unbelievably funny.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, I don't know much about him. He's one of those pop culture figures who's just like everyone's aware of him. You'd see him on Hollywood Squares. He'd be in like Cannonball, whatever those movies were with the Rat Pack. He was just one of those guys who was just sort of like around and would do stuff. But if you were to ask me, I don't know, what are the highlights of Dom DeLuise's career? I would have no idea. Like, for all I know, he
neither
was
would I.
Also, was like had his own sitcom for 10 years. I would not know that at all. Okay, so we go from there to another sketch. It goes right into another Dom DeLuise sketch where now we're back to the sexism and the office Christmas party. Not only that, like there's a lot that's wrong in this sketch. So the setup is that we're in an office Christmas party where everyone's partying except one guy who's sitting at his desk and he just needs to get through some work. So his colleagues decide to slip him a drink and get him drunk. Right. I mean, it's already off to a bad start. Like, they're playing it up for yucks that they're going to drug their coworker, just to see what happens. And so he's just repetitively stamping things over and over again. And so he becomes more and more drunk as everyone's standing behind laughing. And then he just starts stamping like everything he sees. And this is pretty much the sketch. And honestly, I think this one just went on way too long. It's like there was one joke that they just kept repeating over and over again.
I honestly watched this sketch on like 1.5 speed because I was watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this going to end? And so then I remembered that YouTube has that like playback speed thing. And so when I put it up to 1.5 speed, it actually got a little bit better because it felt like it was kind of a mashup between Mr. Bean and Keystone Cops at that point. Yeah. Like everyone was moving just a little bit too fast and like you didn't have time to really stop and think about what's actually happening. It's just like as soon as something happens, he's on to like wrecking the next thing in the office. And then Dean Martin came in for some reason and starts dancing with this other woman. Like,
yeah, that was it's almost like he was watching backstage and he's like, no, I'm going to get in on this. Like, I don't even think that was planned. He just sort of came in, did a thing and then left again. And so for anyone who's not seen this is a silent sketch, right? It's just all set to music. No one's talking. We're just watching the action play out as this guy gets drunker and drunker and just starts, just stamping things with impunity. And then all of a sudden just grabs this woman into his chair and starts kissing her.
Yeah. I feel sorry. Yeah. I felt sorry for that girl in the green dress because he grabbed her twice, I think.
Yeah. He went back for more.
Yeah. I don't. And one time I could have swore maybe he like bit her arm or something.
Yes, the first time.
Yeah, the first time, like he grabs her into the chair, and so she's sort of like in a cradling, the way you cradle a baby. She's like that's how he's holding her, and like he bites her arm and then kisses her, and then she stands up, and her reaction is just like, "Oh, you crazy guy,"
Yeah, and there was no precedent that like they had been like flirting again, not that like grabbing a woman is okay just because you've like flirted her up a little bit, but it was just like she was just another person in the office who like you got the impression if it had been any woman standing behind him he would have just been like, well, you're mine now.
It was the 60s. That kind of thing was okay back then.
Quote unquote okay.
Kidding, everybody. So then he does it again, and then the sketch ends in a final act of sexual harassment where he takes the stamp and just stamps some other woman's backside with his stamp. And that's what gets the biggest laugh. Like that's when okay, everything's gone off the rails at this point. It's time to end this. And there is actually a little reversal at the end, right? You sort of like, that's the climax. Things sort of settle down. But then I don't know if this is a third woman, comes out of nowhere and like hangs mistletoe over her head and then they kiss. And that's the end of the sketch.
Yeah, which was like, would have been a sweeter ending if you hadn't seen him just like grabbing women throughout the party. Yeah. Like, I don't know, if he had just been kind of like boisterous and crazy and she was kind of watching like timidly from the other side of the party. And then finally at the end, when everything's quieted down, she comes in with the mistletoe. Like that would have been a sweet beat to end on. Yeah. But instead you're watching it and you're like, what does she see in him?
Yeah, I don't know if she's feeling sorry for him or whatever. But I can just imagine the pitch session for this. Like, all right, I have a great idea for a sketch. Like these people drug their coworker and then he starts getting super creepy. Like, all right, that's gold. Let's put that on.
This would be like a last minute cut for time decision on like an SNL today. I feel like I feel like the office party is still kind of like rich for comedy, but you have to play it so carefully because it's like, this is work. Like this is where people go to work. So like, don't be creepy.
Oh, I realized that I skipped over a couple of things. So after the Santa Claus parking ticket sketch, we go into this other sketch that, again, it's with Dom DeLuise and Dean Martin, where they play a couple of, like the classic image of the hobo, these guys with baggy clothes with patches all over them. And it lasts just a minute. They're sitting on a bench, and apparently the setup is that these are two, wanderers who perhaps see each other once a year on Christmas Eve, and they're both smoking cigars as they talk. And the joke is that they exchange gifts, and the gifts they exchange are the cigars that each of them is smoking. Like one hands the other his cigar, and the other does vice versa, and that's it. I guarantee you that was like, okay, we need a 30-second filler before commercial kind of thing.
Right. Well, and that one, Dean Martin did costume change.
Yeah.
in none of the other, like, I assume it was just pieces like added over again, this tuxedo that he's wearing, but and every other sketch he just appears in his tuxedo. Like he's working in a shop in a tuxedo. He's at this like business casual Christmas party in a tuxedo. Yeah. So I guess in this one they were like, we really need to like rough him up a little bit if he's going to be a believable hobo.
Yeah, so that one just kind of comes and goes. And then in the very next sketch, we see Dean. This is sort of like the most showbiz thing in the whole show, where Dean's sitting on a grand piano and the maestro is tinkling out a tune. And this is where he's doing he's just being an entertainer, right? He's telling jokes. He's doing maybe a little bit of dancing, just a little bit of, just casting a spell over the audience with his talent and his personality. And when the scene opens, he's drinking from a bar, but then it turns out that the bar is this sort of like secret bar that you can flip and it looks like a bookcase. And he sits on the piano and he starts just doing his thing. And this is another one. It's almost like a non sequitur where there's a knock at the door and Bob Hope comes out for like 5 seconds and just says like, oh, hey, it's pretty crowded with all your empty bottles back there. And then he leaves and that's it.
Yeah, I thought the one with the hobos on the bench, I liked that one. Again, it was really short. It almost made me wonder if maybe on like another part of the soundstage they were flipping the set or something. And so they just needed to take people's attention off of it. But the Bob Hope cameo was weird. It's like you have Bob Hope and that's the material you give him. Like it just felt like a strange choice. And I wonder if that was like some kind of contract thing, like you can have him, but you can only say like one line or something like that. Because he was really underused. He does come back at the end of the special. We're going to get to that, but in a very different context. And it wasn't actually on stage, right? It looked like it was recorded earlier. Yeah.
Part of me wonders if that Bob Hope bit was improv because he made fun of Dean's drinking and said something about loving Dean's red nose and things like that. And I don't know if I looked too much into it, but Bob Hope almost had this look of disgust about him, like he just can't believe.
Maybe like Bob Hope was available at the last minute and they hadn't written anything for him or something. And then he was like, what can I talk about? Dean's been drinking an awful lot tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I think I've heard stories that Bob Hope was not really well liked by his peers, that he had like a bit of a nasty side or a condescending side, but I could be misremembering that.
Yeah, he did kind of have that like stern grandfather tone in his cameo.
Yeah, but he just sort of comes, he says his one line and then he goes and you're just like, oh, okay, there's that. And then it goes right into the office Christmas party. And so when Dean comes into the office Christmas party wearing the tuxedo, it's the tuxedo we just saw him in when he was sitting on the piano. And then after that, we're pretty much ready to start wrapping it up. This is when we come on to I think we go to a commercial break, and we come back and we find the stage just has all these kids all over it. And for the first few minutes, they're just letting the kids be kids. It's almost like one of those kids say the darndest thing kind of things.
Yeah, it felt like that kind of setup,
where, Dean's just asking them, and like one kid, he asks, do you have a favorite singer? And the kid just like starts freaking out for no apparent reason.
I have that in my notes too. The kids are mortified by Dean Martin.
that blonde-headed boy that was laughing I looked at it, doing research. That's Peter DeLuise. That's Don DeLuise's son.
Is that Peter DeLuise from 21 Jump Street?
Yes.
That was Johnny Depp's partner on 21 Jump Street. Yeah. And here's some more trivia. And the opening shot, the little girl sitting on someone's lap is Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie.
Yes. She's also in that scene. She's the one that corrects. Denny Weaver about which instrument to play first.
Oh yeah.
So
then, so Danny Weaver comes out, and I don't really know who Danny Weaver is, but he seems like he belonged there. And comes out and just does one of those, okay, we're just going to sing a song with the kids, and each of them gets like a kazoo and a drum or a harmonica. And at certain points in the song, they just make a bunch of racket.
It's chaos. Like, by that point, I was like, oh, they've lost the plot on this one. Which I'm sure they played it for that comedy. They were like, there's no way this is going to be executed well, having all these children with just different noisy instruments. But Yeah, I saw it coming a mile away that music number was going to be a bit of a train wreck.
I'm surprised they kept it as well together as they did. Yeah, and like I said, that really is part of, you'll see that in those old Lawrence Welk specials. And it gets a little weird when Lawrence Welk, because they literally just go around the room and it's like, okay, who are, introduce yourself and introduce us to your kids. And it's just like 15 minutes of that. But I kind of feel like that's a time-honored tradition. There was a Mariah Carey special that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago. It's a concert special. She just does a concert. And at the end, she does that. Like all the cast and crew bring their kids up on stage, and I think they do like a kid song like Rudolph or something like that. And so it's still around today. It's something you can see from time to time.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess they do that in like the like credits of Pixar movies, here are all the kids that were born during the production. So yeah. It's got to be some kind of like time honored tradition in showbiz to like thank your kids and somehow like, I don't know, put them on display.
Yeah. And then with everyone still on stage, they do what should have been the final number of the show, where they do a song medley. It ends with Silent Night.
Yep.
It's all is calm and bright. It sort of gives you these feels, fade to black, go to commercial, presumably, and it really could have ended there, but it doesn't.
Agreed. I was so shocked. I was like watching the time bar go on the bottom of the YouTube video, and I was like, how is there still so much time left? Like, what note are they going to possibly end on this not Silent Night?
And so remember at the beginning of the conversation, I said there's one or two things that really would prevent something like this from ever being aired today. And this is it. This is 10 straight minutes worth of this next segment. It was roughly like equal to, like, I don't know, if you look at the whole thing was 48 minutes of runtime. So it's like a quarter of the show, almost, maybe a little bit less, where they announced that this show raises money to donate to children's hospitals. And so they announced that in 1968, that year, they were donating $100,000, which I looked it up is the equivalent of $743,000 today. And then what plays out is almost like one of those snow day announcements. Do you guys remember those where you'd like listen on the radio or on TV and like wait to hear your school to see if you weren't going to go in because of snow? It's like that, where one celebrity after another mentions some hospital somewhere that's going to benefit from these donations.
Yeah, and a lot of the celebrities, like, I recognized more than I thought I would. Some of them just seemed like local, like, news anchors or like game show hosts or something, but they're like speaking directly to the kids, a lot of the people. And again, it goes back to like, do you think all these children are like sitting around in the children's hospital like, oh, I hope they name our hospital? Like,
yeah,
it seemed strange.
And
again, so long.
Very long. But it is this revolving cast of really high profile people. Like George Burns is in it, Jimmy Stewart, Johnny Carson, Bob Hope, Tony Bennett, Andy
Lucille
Griffith.
Ball was at the end.
Yeah, Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Who else? And just it's all on IMDb.
Was Twiggy in there somewhere?
Yes, I believe that was.
Yeah.
Red Skelton.
Glenn Campbell was in there. Raymond Burr.
Yeah, Raymond Burr.
Joey Bishop was in there. Jack Benny.
It was tons of people. It was like
Tennessee Ernie Ford was one of them.
Oh yeah, and the guy who played Gomer Pyle, I forget his real name.
Jim Navers.
Yeah, Jim Navers. And so
and Andy Griffin.
Yeah, and then Michael Landon. Remember, he's in wearing a cowboy hat. And so,
today it would be like the Avengers would be there like in costume or whatever. They'd be like, "Hey, St. Jude's, we're coming to you." Like, you know what I mean? That's what it felt like it would be.
But so
like,
this is the part that was really painful, is because it's just one celebrity after another, and they each have like what seems like 5 seconds to just name some hospital. But you can't just say that like over and over again. Okay, this hospital, that hospital. They have to kind of say the same thing in a different way. So each one of them will come up like, hey, you kids at like the St. Jude's Center, tell Rudolph to keep the lights on because blah, blah, blah. And then it would go over to Bob Hope and he'd be like, well, I hope Santa Claus doesn't miss out on this house in like Mexico or something like that. And it's just 8 straight minutes of this. And there weren't even like they weren't trying to inject any comedy into it or entertainment. It was just they cut from one scene to another. And again, all of these must have been filmed elsewhere, right? You'd see people in front of different curtains.
Yeah, that's what kind of like you got the idea that they were like, okay, it's like the end of a long day of filming on like X show or X movie. They're like, oh, can you just read this line for the camera? Like, Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Landon was still in costume from Bonanza, and then the other two main characters from Bonanza as well. It's like they just pulled them to the side. And
I was wondering about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because Johnny Carson does it right in front of his what looks like from the stage of his theater, and Bob
Yeah, the
Hope
like
does
marquee
too.
lights in the back and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then that's it, right? Oh, they start with a song. They sing "Christmas is for Children," and then that leads into this announcement, and then it's just like 8 to 10 minutes of this, and then they end. And so again, it's sort of like this anti-climax where they come and they do a medley, which I believe ends on "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and fade to black.
Yeah. Another note that I had here, before it goes into like the revolving door of cameos, they're doing like that slow pan of all the toys. And there are so many Smokey the Bear toys.
Oh yeah,
And like, I don't know if was that like a popular toy? Like, I was kind of looking for like the hot toy of 1968, looking for like toys that I recognize, but it was just a ton of like creepy dolls, which makes sense for the time. And then so many Smokey the Bear toys.
I'm guessing that was a donation from, what is that, like the Wildlife Foundation that did Smokey
Right.
the Bear?
Or like the National Park Service or something. Yeah.
It's probably popular in California.
Probably. Isn't
Yeah.
there, you guys have Smacky the Frog in Canada, right?
What?
Isn't there Smacky the Frog? There's a Smacky the Frog who is the equivalent of Smokey the Bear. I don't know if it's Canada or England, but yeah, that's a thing.
Oh my gosh. I need to look this up. Smacky the Frog.
Yeah.
He is in England.
Oh, England. Okay.
Yes. We have Smokey the Bear here too.
I remember those growing up. Those were, we'd see those little PSAs from the Better Business Bureau and the National Wildlife Association and things like that. And it would just be like, only you can prevent forest fires. But I'm surprised that there was a commercially available product, because who would be profiting off of that? It seems like a government agency would be behind that. But they must have licensed the image to some toy maker.
Yeah, which I think helps with the theory that maybe it was a donation.
Yeah. Yeah, because what were the toys from 1960, late 1960s would have been like Easy Bake Oven was a big one. The Pet Rock was maybe in the 70s. I'll have to look up what the top toys from the late 60s were.
Yeah, it was just a lot of like generic kind of looking toys, like big old like spinning tops, and again the like dolls with like the dead eyes, and
Yeah.
one of whom got a close up at one point.
Yeah, he's kind of look, for a Barbie doll in there or a G.I. Joe or something like that. But
I wonder if they had to be careful about showing branded products. Maybe that was behind it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So anyway, they're just showing all this bounty and then talking about all the kids who are going to get it. They sing a song and they say goodnight, and that is the 1968 Dean Martin, what was the official title? The Dean Martin Christmas Show.
Yeah.
And it seems like that was just one of many things he did, because his comedy roasts were on prime time a lot. He was just one of those guys that they're like on Saturday, they just put on an hour's worth of Dean Martin doing something. And I guess this was just the one that they put on around Christmas time.
Yeah, he did mention in this special that he had a Thanksgiving special like the month before. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go watch more of these because they are so good.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the show notes, everybody. I'll have a link to this on the YouTube, where you can find it on YouTube. And also some of those Lawrence Welk ones. I'd love to do one of those someday. And if anyone listening would like to come on and review it with me, but by all means, drop me a line. Because this is just something that is frozen in time. I don't think we could have one of these today. I think whenever we try, it's like, oh, we'll put Michael Bublé in something like this. And it just, it doesn't work. I think for a lot of reasons,
Yeah, I was just going to say that like on NBC now, they've been doing those like live musicals for a few years. And they haven't done one like explicitly Christmassy that I know of, but they're always plagued with technical difficulties, and a lot of them don't have a live audience. And then the ones that do have a live audience, the audiences are like mic'd poorly or don't react when they're supposed to. Like it feels like TV has kind of moved away, which is interesting because theoretically we have like better technology to put on these more like complex specials. But the NBC ones are just like, they have not been successful at all.
Yeah.
Well, and it also just reeks of gimmick. Like, that they're doing that because like, you're going to watch it because it's live, and streaming it later wouldn't have the same feel to it. But yeah, I kind of feel like that too is just something very much of the moment now. We do live stuff not because it's a throwback to another time or something like that, but it's like that's kind of the idea of appointment television. There really aren't too many opportunities for that anymore. Whereas something like this, where it's full of mistakes, it's full of just all kinds of like weird stuff that doesn't necessarily seem like it goes together. That was just really common back then. It was almost like watching a vaudeville show where just you'd have a magician, you'd have a dancer, you'd have a juggler, you'd have a comedian, you'd have someone come out and like read the Gettysburg Address, which was actually a thing they did in vaudeville back then. And like that was just, that was just the kind of thing that you would see. And I feel like that's just gone. The only way to experience it, or at least to feel what it would be like to experience it back in those days, is to watch something from back in those days. Hey, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that, and maybe it inspired you to go check out that special and other ones like it. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to hear me review, please drop me a line. I'd be happy to consider it. Again, we're releasing one new episode every single day for the foreseeable future, so I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, let me remind you that Christmas Past is produced in sunny San Mateo, California by yours truly, Brian Earl. And until we meet again, stay safe and healthy, look out for one another, and may your days be merry and bright.